Ladies and gentlemen, Seattle has become the latest city to learn the hard way that when you elect far-left socialist politicians to run your city, you should not be surprised when they then run your city into the ground. And Seattle's dealing with a major crime problem. Shocker, right? And the citizens are in fear of their lives. And they want the city to actually do something about it because they have criminals who are literally having shootouts in the streets in these neighborhoods. Meanwhile, the mayor, Katie Wilson, is working against the police department there and actually taking away tools that would help them do their job and catch these criminals. As always, smash that thumbs up button if you enjoy the content. That's the best way to let me know. Subscribe to stay locked in with all future videos. So let's start right here.
Neighbors in North Seattle say they are under siege in their own homes as gun battles erupt on the surrounding streets. It's all part of the prostitution turf wars along Aurora Avenue. KOMO's Joel Marino is live in Seattle with how neighbors are upping the stakes to get a solution. Joel?
Kelly, in recent days, neighbors, they set up these planter boxes you see behind me to actually block their streets, keep traffickers and pimps from being able to drive through off Aurora Avenue. But these neighbors say much more needs to be done to end the gun violence. And today, they showed up at City Hall. The gunfire can be relentless along this stretch of Seattle's Aurora Avenue. One neighbor says a shooting just days ago put his family at risk.
Those gunshots continued. I jumped over, covered my wife, put my hand on my baby in his bassinet. Little did I know that some of those shots had hit my house 2 feet above where my baby's bassinet was.
Neighbors are exhausted and angry that city leaders have yet to deliver on their calls for public safety.
I hear so many shots. I mean, just last night I heard a shot go out.
And you have just dozens of shots going willy-nilly all over the neighborhood.
A group of residents press their points at Seattle City Hall to help put a face on the frustrations.
What he's experiencing is it's not right and it's not acceptable, and we can't have that in our city.
In the meantime, some neighbors are blocking streets themselves, using planter boxes as makeshift barricades.
There are barriers on a few of the streets to protect the neighborhood from pimps and johns circling the blocks, which is leading directly to shootings.
The city has used Jersey barriers on other streets for the same purpose, and the mayor's office says it may expand that program. Police are running late-night patrols as well, but Councilmember Robert Kettle says more needs to be done.
But we have to get our SPD staffing up. We have to get our detectives going again on this. We need to have better partnership with county and state and federal law enforcement because this is not just a local issue.
Well, today, a spokesperson for the mayor's office told me that they are reviewing whether additional street barriers could be installed legally and safely. They're looking into that right now. And in addition to the late-night patrols that were mentioned, they are also, well, getting undercover detectives out there on the streets to try and identify and go after these traffickers who are tied to all this gun violence. So a lot in the works. We'll see how it goes. Reporting live, Joel Marino, KOMO News.
All right. Yeah, so first off, the crime is clearly out of control in Seattle, and it's been like that for some time now. And so now the mayor, Katie Wilson, the Democrat socialist, that's what she calls herself, is getting massive backlash for her far-left policies that are clashing with the police department in Seattle. And a major part of that clash is the fact that she's put a pause on the use of police CCTV, not allowing them to expand any further into the city, despite the fact that, ladies and gentlemen, the department is understaffed and needs all the help they can find. Take a look. Yeah, and so before we even go any further, this is just a reminder of who the Seattle voters thought it was a good idea to put in charge of their city. Check this out.
I had the honor of being noticed by the President of the United States, who called me a very, very liberal/communist mayor. It's nice to feel seen. That's all I'm going to say about that. And earlier this month, we launched our transition team.
And so here's a few things you should know about Seattle. They've been trying to rebound since 2019 from horrible police recruitment numbers because no one wants to be a police officer there. They were losing more officers, ladies and gentlemen, than they were hiring year after year after year after year. Then finally, in 2024, they had a net positive gain, but it was minimal, and they're still understaffed and struggling. So with all that taken into account, she's choosing to limit resources that would help law enforcement catch criminals. And so, of course, because they have limited officers and limited resources, you have a crime issue in that city. That's not a really hard math equation to figure out, right? Criminals exist everywhere, yes, but they tend to exist more places where the leadership allows them to keep getting away with more and more crime, because if you can commit crimes without the constant fear of being arrested and going to prison, then that sounds like a criminal's utopia, if you ask me. And of course, this is what you get with a socialist agenda. They do not want to stop crime. Crime is only a tool they can use to further their agenda. They want as much chaos as possible, because then it becomes easier for them to sell individuals who are desperate for some solution, and even the worst solution, communism. That's how they can then sell it as a necessary fixer to what these people are dealing with. But what they don't realize is that those conditions were created on purpose to get them right where they want them. And so right now they call themselves democratic socialists because, you can't just come out and say, hey, we're communists. We want to do communism here. There needs to be a level of deception to get people to that point where they accept it. But they'll dress it up like it's something else, and it's not. But here's the reality. These residents cheered and asked for everything they're getting now. And it seems like, as usual, this is a case of learning the hard way that this just does not work.
We begin with neighbors on edge after they've witnessed 4 shootings in 72 hours. Neighbors living near 97th and Aurora say they've all happened in just this one city block. The latest shooting was caught on camera early this morning with around 20 or more shots fired. Fox 13's Jennifer Dowling joining me live from Seattle Police's North Precinct. Jennifer, what can you tell us?
Sabira, we just reported on a rash of shootings yesterday in this very same block of Aurora. And here we are again today reporting on another frightening shooting. Neighbors say something has to be done by the city to stop the violence. Neighbors say this shootout early this morning, caught by security cameras at a local business, shows how dangerous the situation has become near 97th and Aurora. In it, you can see men gathered in an alley between George's transmission shop and another building. They duck to take cover as shots ring out. Some return fire with gun muzzles flashing.
Now I don't feel safe no more, and it's sad. We shouldn't have to live like this.
Ava Wilson lives nearby with her 5-year-old son, Tyrese.
Gunshots.
Wilson says people in her building took cover.
There's kids that stay in that building, not just mine.
It was pretty noisy, and we live about 3-4 blocks away.
Block Captain Peter Orr woke up to the gunfire. Neighbor Jake also heard it while feeding his baby.
And it's terrifying.
Jake's security camera picked up the audio. This latest shooting happening just a day after we interviewed him about a bullet nearly hitting his baby's window during an ambush-style shooting near his house this weekend.
Even less than 24 hours since you guys were here investigating the shooting that hit my house, we've actually experienced 2 additional shootings on our same block.
I asked Mayor Katie Wilson's office if the city might increase patrols or do something else to curtail violence, and got this response by email. You'll need to contact SPD for questions about their staffing levels. Mayor Katie Wilson's administration continues to work with SPD to hire additional officers and provide community-based solutions to address gun violence.
I've seen more authentic responses generated by AI. It's pretty lackluster and tone deaf.
The first thing I see is the mayor's office passing the buck. The first thing they say is, you'll need to contact SPD for questions. What we're experiencing is escalating gun violence day by day. What this email says is that they don't see urgency, they don't see an emergency, and I've got the bullets in the side of my house to prove it.
reached out to SPD about whether they might step up patrols there and got this response. As we continue to get additional new officers, we always send them to precincts to begin their career. So there's a high likelihood that the North Precinct will continue to see an influx of officers as hiring continues. They said they couldn't talk about specific staffing numbers on Aurora due to safety concerns. They also said that shooting over the weekend was being investigated. That is active and ongoing. Meantime, we also asked today about that shooting this morning, and we are waiting for an update on that.
So this is where I'll leave it, because when you look at these cities like Chicago, Seattle, Los Angeles, Portland, and so many of these other Democrat-run cities, the pattern's always the same, isn't it? They elect leaders who want to experiment with public safety, right? They want a new approach on things. They want to be compassionate towards the people committing crimes. They want to talk about root causes. They want to talk about trauma, equity, harm reduction, all these buzzwords, community-based solutions. But somehow the one thing they do not want to say clearly is, if you commit crimes, you're going to be arrested, prosecuted, and kept away from the working class public. You're going to jail, because we're not going to let you terrorize people. And that shouldn't really be controversial, but today it is. And every time these cities choose leaders who sympathize more with criminals than the victims, the results are always the same. You get more disorder, more excuses, more overwhelmed police departments, more prosecutors who are not prosecuting, and more judges releasing people, the same people committing the crimes, right back into the streets. And taxpayers are just told to deal with it. None of this is shocking. It's sad, but it's not shocking. Not if you've paid attention to history and that sort of thing. Because, listen, I'm sure that these people in these cities want peace. They want safety, all that type of stuff. They want a normal life. But for whatever reason, they're convinced that law and order somehow is mean and outdated or extreme. And it's not. Law and order is what protects decent people from indecent behavior. The working class from chaos. These cities have a choice. These residents in these cities have a choice. They can continue electing leaders who are going to make excuses for the criminals, or they can finally demand leaders who, are going to protect the people who actually are following the law. But those are my thoughts in the update. Now it's time to hear from you. Drop your comments down below. As always, smash that thumbs up if you enjoy the content. For more, subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.